Okay, I had to record. Important to hit record every once in a while. Today's going to be just largely sort of infotainment, so not quite too much stuff to worry about today. And don't worry, I'm going to introduce myself in just a second. But I have to give you guys a definite shout out, heads up, hands up, whatever, all that kind of stuff for braving this new world we're in and taking it to wherever we were taken to. Let's see. I guess I can see myself down there, so I can just stare at that one, right? I have 3 monitors attached here, which is great. Oh, that's better. All right. So my multi-monitor is down here, so that's why I keep looking down. And my other monitor, which hopefully I can switch to. Let's see if I can do this now. Nope, that's not it. That's it. Okay. That's the one I wanted to change to. The other one was tricky. That was like, you get that kind of whole effect going on there, which was great, right? I'm sure you love that effect. So we are here. Let's see. Some people are still introducing themselves at the last minute, and other people here in fall 2020. And let's see, is anyone over in general? Oh, somebody just joined. Let me make sure. Add them. Whoops, didn't mean to add them to the Arch session. That's no good. The fall session, that's better. We'll get rid of that Arch session. Okay, all right. So let's turn if you want to turn your microphones on for a moment. I feel like just let's make some noise. I like to see like there's some enthusiasm. There's actual live bodies at the other end of the microphone or the other end of the internet. Now, so feel free to we can be a little bit noisy at the very beginning. Is anyone actually there? I'm listening now. Nobody? Are you talking? Am I not hearing? Why is that? I think my headset is on. Let's see. Yeah, my output device is on. Let's do a mic check. Hello, hello. You know what? These headsets have proven to be. They got us these really cool headsets, and I was attempting to use this really cool headset. And I can't use this one. Okay, I'm gonna have to go live. I'm gonna have to go headsetless. Watch this. This is gonna be really scary. I apologize for any kind of feedback, but this is what we got to do. We got to put up with these kind of things. So I think it is my headset. I'm gonna do this. There we go. Oh my God. Now I can hear you.
Let's get some face reveals up in
Hello.
here.
Hello. Okay.
Hello? Testing. Yes. Is he here?
I'm here. You could hear me, right?
Great.
Yeah,
That's
we can hear you.
Okay.
Hello?
I have to apologize. We have the school issued Bluetooth headsets have been very hit or miss. We'll just say.
Excuse me, Professor.
Yes.
Are we allowed to turn on our cameras and get some face reveals up in here?
Absolutely. Yes. Faces are good. It's gonna be challenging for me to put faces with names and all that sort of stuff, but I'm looking forward to it. The good news is, chances are this will not be the last time. This is certainly, well, it's probably the first time. It's definitely the first time for some of you, but will probably not be the last time you have another class with me. So sooner or later, we're gonna definitely get to know each other over the course of lots of things. I teach freshman classes, I teach sophomore classes, I teach junior and senior level classes. So you're stuck with me for a while. I think maybe depending. The more you get into the kind of, how many of us are computer science concentrations? Do we think we have quite a few of those, right? Any?
I'm a computer science major. I just got an override form because
okay.
I'm doing
Okay.
I'm a dual major.
I'm E-Arts.
All right.
I'm a dual major with CS.
So you'll probably be like 50-50 with me on then. So anyone, I teach intro to game programming, which all the GSAS students have to take. You have to have some familiarity with programming. And then I also teach Game Dev 1, which everyone takes. And then further on in your careers, if you are going in more the kind of the computer science route or the kind of hardcore programming route, I teach computer graphics, and I also teach computer game engine architecture, which is kind of the closest to the metal kind of real scary programming kind of pieces of things. But we're far from that today, so we don't have to worry about it. So nobody should be afraid of that. I won't go through and have everybody introduce. Let's see. So we've got Francisco. Hello. We've got John.
Hello. Good afternoon.
John Ray. I'm just gonna like introduce everyone and then say, well, we have the fall introductions. So everybody's got. Hopefully, if you haven't by now, you should put an entry there so that we know who's who. And now okay, there we go. Joseph.
Hello.
Hi, Joseph. And Logan.
Hello. Hi.
And Mike. Hey, Mike. You have lunch? Is that lunch?
Hello.
Is that lunch there, or is that?
Yeah.
Are you bringing enough for everybody?
Yeah, it was lunch.
Okay. I had peanut butter and jelly just now, so it was really, Sebastian, one of two Sebastians, if I am correct. Is that right?
Yeah, just another Sebastian. I don't know, another one exists at RPI.
Yeah, he's my twin. There's actually a third one.
I won't bug everybody else. I'm just saying the real fast. So we have Alex. We have two Alexes. And Autumn, I'm not quite sure. Someone's name they haven't put their first name yet. Bertini, Brendan, Ivan, Jacob, Kenny, Max, Sean, Sebastian, the other Sebastian, not to be confused with Sebastian, Stone, Xingjian, and Ji. How did I do? Pronunciation-wise, let me know. I apologize up front. My last name tends to get butchered all the time, so I'm used to like having to deal with people butchering your last name or first name. And I am very sensitive about trying to pronounce people's names right and address them in the way that they prefer. So at any point, you can let me know. But it's really great to have you here, and I really do appreciate your stick-to-itiveness in showing up online. So we are an exclusively online class this semester, but now I understand, so the majority of you are freshmen, so you are on campus, though. So I'm very interested to hear how that kind of pans out. It's a pretty good mix. We do have some upperclassmen in the course as well, a couple of late ads. So it's not just freshmen. Historically, this class has been sort of all over the map, but it's kind of definitely geared towards, it had been kind of second semester freshmen, but we now offer both first and, fall and spring. So it's kind of interesting, and it's a pretty broad background of people, of folks as well. So it's a fun class. I really love this class. I'm excited to kind of let you all hear from you all and share what happens with all of you. So hopefully, oh wow, that was weird. Someone just jumped in, and is that Autumn? You just jumped in, and it took the spot of my screen, and it freaked me out. I was like, oh my gosh, I lost my chat. I was like, good to have you, Autumn.
Yeah, that's me. Sorry.
It's totally fine. I get all like scared when things start flickering and so on. So here's where I'm at. I'll kind of this is my office. You can be like, ooh, impressed. So I have a bunch of monitors that confuse the hell out of me.
Oh wow.
And there's my laptop, which sort of runs the show, which half the time, well, knock on wood, it'll behave for us. If anything bad happens, we blame it on that laptop, unfortunately. There's you heard my piano before, and so we're in my office at home here, and we'll make the best of it. My background, and I'll just jump right in. Okay, I'll go, it's supposed to be, here we go. We're gonna jump right in here. I'm gonna say present, and I'll present the screen here. So, Introduction to Game Programming, GSAS 2540. If you're here, you're in the right room. I used to make jokes about being in the wrong room, get out, whatever, but Here we are. We're all here in GSAS 2540, the remote edition. So what's our plan? What do I expect? What do you expect? What should you expect? We'll get right to it. All right. So, who is this class for? This class is for anyone wanting or needing to understand... Oh, someone came to the door. All right, apologize for that. It's my ring bell notifier, whatever. Just gotta deal with these things. Turn that off. Okay. A delivery. Ooh, wonder what that is. Anyone wanting or needing to understand firsthand what it means to program games. And by that we mean, sometimes it is all GSAS majors. So even if you are intending to go down a non-CS track, we want you to understand what it means to program. Or, turns out maybe it is something you're interested in, or maybe there's some aspects of programming or development that you want to get involved in that help you in your particular concentrations, like music or writing, or there's lots and lots of different tools and lots of different ways for people to contribute to projects. So it's important that there's kind of a commonality and communication, and everyone can kind of be on the same page with regards to what the tools are, what's going into building video games. All right. So for the class, experience in game development is desired, but it's not required, and it could be any sort of experience in terms of programming. It could be anything from JavaScript to a web page to Playmaker to Scratch programming to Unity and OpenGL and Unreal, Godot, whatever, wherever. Everybody's welcome. So we don't really make much in the way of assumptions about your programming background to begin with. So everything's wide open. Now let me make sure. Oh, I'm ruining my joke here by having my face up in the corner there. So I'll just move myself around once in a while here. So there is a wide range of backgrounds in this class, and we'll use that to our advantage, right? There are no team projects per se, but we do want to talk about issues as they kind of come up about, ways you're going to be using, incorporating different things into, bringing them into a game as you're developing it, as you're programming it. But we do like that, having that broad range, and it also helps to make sure that we're not taking anything for granted. If someone's been using a particular game engine, programming it for years and years, sometimes they forget about, hey, there's this cool thing, or there's this new feature, or there's some kind of thing that they wouldn't get exposed to if they hadn't taken the time to see it from somebody else's perspective. So there is that wide range of background, and we'll try to use that to our advantage. There are minimums, but no maximums. Now, what I mean by that is that in all of the projects, I am going to expect you to be able to apply certain concepts and techniques that I'm going to cover kind of specifically with regards to the game engine and so on. However, if you do want to go beyond that, because you've already had some experience, you can do that. You can kind of expand on what your projects are, but always remembering to cover the bases. Make sure that you're demonstrating to me, even if you know how to do, shader graph and 3D and all the high level stuff. You have to make sure to check all the boxes about doing the simple things like, how to make the user interface work and all that sort of thing. So make sure that you cover the bases. All right, so that's what I mean. You have to cover the minimums, but you can certainly go beyond that. Okay, you have to be able to demonstrate mastery of those basic things before you kind of move on to conquering. Before you drive the race car, you got to drive without the training wheels or something like that. So let's see if I can let's see. Like I said, too many screens. That one. There we go. So, introductions. I'm not going to make you all introduce yourselves because we do have that wonderful introduction channel. So hopefully we can put together some names and faces over the course of things. And I'll encourage people to actually be connected and show their faces and whatnot on here. And this way you can all get to know one another and get to know me and that sort of thing as well. But I will say a little bit about myself since I'm here. I'm Eric Amorous, and Amorous, it rhymes with glamorous if you're concerned. The easiest way to pronounce it, it's funny, once you know that it rhymes with glamorous, then you know how it works. Otherwise, it's pronounced all kinds of different ways. I am first off, I guess I'm an RPI student through and through. I did my bachelor's back in the day, we'll just say, at RPI. I got my master's in computer and systems engineering, so I'm a CSE. Both my bachelor's and my master's are actually in that. But then my PhD is in cognitive science, and I'm more recently a graduate of cognitive science here at RPI. So those of you who are Cog Sci concentrations, you may wind up as my advisees or whatever. We'll see you through there. So I'm an RPI student through and through. I'm also an RPI parent. So my son and daughter were class of 2016, or our class of 2016 and 2018. So I know what you're going through. I know what your parents are going through. I know that all firsthand. And so feel free to ask me anything, especially with all this kind of crazy pandemic stuff going on. Whatever, above and beyond, everybody. And you should feel free to ask and talk to any faculty, staff, whatever at RPI. Anything you need to know about, anything we can do to help you kind of get through, especially with all the craziness going on. If you have special dietary needs and you want to know what a good gluten-free restaurant is, there's the place nearby. We're a gluten-free household, so we can help you with that kind of crazy stuff. Anyway, but seriously. All right, so why am I here teaching computer games? Now, I do have to apologize. I tend to talk fast. This is not caffeinated tea. I can tend to talk fast. I can tend to go from subject to subject. Yes, I fit that personality. So if you ever need to attract my attention or I need to make sure to kind of pause. Let me make sure. See, here I'm getting distracted to make sure that everybody is in the right role. Yep, okay. So I'll try to go at the right speed, or some speed. My background professionally, why I'm teaching this class, why I'm in this GSAS department is I've developed tools, usually middleware. What that means is sort of like developer tools, things that other people use to develop games and products and multimedia and so on. I've done it for Atari, Sega, worked on both the Saturn and the Dreamcast, which was exciting, my favorite platforms. I've worked with Sony, Microsoft, Apple, Adobe, Google, and others. So lots of different companies as sort of a middleware vendor, trying to help them use our technology or help people kind of broker technology and things like that. I love retro gaming, mostly a PC gamer now, but I do have a Switch, and I'm probably going to get a PS5 finally. I've had every PlayStation up through, I don't have a PS4, that's been the one I've skipped. I have PS original, 1, 2, 3, but not a 4. But I'll get a PlayStation 5. We have an Xbox 360. Those were mostly my sons. I'm not a huge Xbox gamer. Sorry. I was always kind of like, well, I can probably get those games on the PC anyway. My favorite types of games, I like adventure games and survival horror. I'm a big fan of survival horror games. These days I also like, side-scrolling platformers. So I like retro games as well. I like games with a good story. I like being scared. I like horror movies in general, that kind of thing. So that's where I come from. Currently, even though I don't update this quite often enough because I haven't finished these games, it still tends to be true. So I keep adding my games that I'm playing. Still haven't finished BioShock or Amnesia. I started Borderlands. I started Life is Strange, and I kind of put it on the side. I had to give Zelda Breath of the Wild back to my son because he's working. He's playing through that, and my wife and I are working on Lovers in a Dangerous Space-Time. But I've recently added Alien Isolation, which is a great. If you like survival horror games, Alien Isolation, very very cool. There's a brand new platformer out. I haven't gotten it yet called Inmost, which is an indie game which looks really really cool. There's also another great game called Carrion. I don't know if you've seen that one. I think it's a new. You play as this blob of amorphous.
Reverse horror. That's the big one.
Yeah, looks great. So lots of good games out there. So for this class, I love this. This I love about my job, and I can tell you, yes, make sure you're out there playing all the latest games. Putting in the time, putting in the effort to make sure that you're learning about all this new stuff, seeing what other people are doing, seeing what things are capable of. And let's see, I'll push myself up back to the corner a little bit here. Do that. All right, so that's my background and the craziness that you can probably expect from me. Normally, you'd reach me at my office in West Hall with most of the other GSAS professors. I'm on West Hall 312A. Eventually, I'll be back there. But these days, you can usually catch me either on Twitch or on Discord or on YouTube. Twitch and Discord, I'm usually Eraser Mice. If anyone can figure out why that's my name, that's always worth an extra point or two. On YouTube, the channel that I use mostly is called LearnMax. That's my biggest channel, and so on there, we can do things like live stream on there and put hours and hours of content. depending on how everyone is connected here and so on. In the past, additionally, because obviously on Discord we can't record videos for Discord necessarily. It's not really a recorded platform. So I've posted recorded videos on YouTube as part of a playlist for each semester. So you can actually go even probably find last semester's playlist of the entire semester or even the summer. And I will also, or I can also stream it to Twitch as well. The problem with Twitch tends to be a really good live stream, but everything over there, because I'm not a partner level streamer, my content disappears after 2 weeks. So that makes it not ideal for long-term storage of content. But YouTube turns out pretty well. But we use Discord as kind of like our main place to meet. So when in doubt, come over to Discord, send me a message anytime. I don't have a particular schedule. I won't say like, oh, don't try to contact me after 10 p.m. Go ahead, try to contact me. Maybe I'll answer. Maybe I'll be doing stuff. I'm not going to answer if I'm in the middle of my D&D campaign. I'm, on with other people or something like that, or if I'm asleep. So, but feel free. Discord is great that way, that it can be sort of wide open. Normally, I will have some office hours, official office hours that I'll try to be sitting at my computer ready to answer your questions. Usually they're going to be Monday and Thursday, so opposite the days that you have this class, at about somewhere around 12:30 to 2 p.m. plus or minus, sort of thing. You can always reach out for me for an appointment to kind of talk, meet via Discord or whatever means we can discuss things. And you can always reach me via email at ameree@rpi.edu. All right, so that's the social media side of things. Now, the other thing is the LMS, the Blackboard system. Has everybody been able to check out LMS at some point? Hopefully?
Yes.
All right. So LMS is the learning management system, or the Blackboard system, and that's the dot the I's and cross the T's sort of place. Okay, your grading is going to show up. This grading throughout the semester, for any particular projects. If you have to submit something that has a deadline and so on, we're probably going to use that for the submissions as well. I'll go ahead and post course content up there, copies of all my lecture notes, any kind of additional ancillary materials. Probably will wind up on both Discord and LMS. LMS is a little bit clunky and it's not, the coolest thing in the world, but it is, it's there and it's reasonably dependable. So check for that, and we'll get more into how specifically we use LMS to do that. All right. The course syllabus and schedule are on LMS already. And as with any other material on there, normally they are live published documents. And by that, what I mean is that they will all be, normally they're links to Google Docs. So if I make a change to a document, it will be reflected in the Google Docs version that is on LMS. So I try to make everything as live as possible so that if somebody does have a question about something or wants some additional information, the live version will be over on there on LMS. So it's a good thing to have. How many of you have bought the textbook? Not everybody, maybe kind of. All right. The textbook is officially, it's optional, it's recommended. It's a good book. You should flip through it. It's largely going to be dependent on how comfortable you are with Unity and C# and kind of game programming. If you're like coming to this really new, if you're a little bit nervous, if you're like, a little trepidatious about things, it's good to have. It's a good book. You'll be able to see, even the Apple Tree or the Apple Picker program that we do, there's a version of that right in there. There's a space shoot 'em up kind of version, a program in there as well. So you can kind of see some good techniques. I certainly differ in opinions on different things, and the book isn't always referring to the latest and greatest version of Unity. Unity is up. The latest version of Unity now is 2020. They do it to me. Every semester I face a new version of Unity, which makes it exciting. So the book is not exactly super up to date with the latest version of Unity. So, if you're all about the cutting edge, but it's got some really good stuff in terms of prototyping and programming patterns and general background, and just to kind of give you that extra level of support if you need it, I recommend it. I find it, very useful, and I like having it around just to kind of refer people to if you think you're going to need that sort of thing. So optional, if you're already comfortable in Unity and you're already good at C# or you're, kind of that, it's up to you. Leaf through it, flip through the book. If you decide you want to return it, that's up to you. So that's that. That's the book. I had a sip of my tea. I'm already getting hoarse. Does it sound okay? Do I volume levels are okay? And
Yeah,
you sound fine.
that sounds fine.
Yeah.
A little bit blurry, but we're good.
a little blurry?
A little bit blurry, yeah. But I
The
don't
video quality so well.
The screen cap quality is kind of grainy, so it's fine.
I come in and out of
But
it.
that has to do with Discord itself. You can't really do much about that.
Yeah. So just the one thing I guess I didn't mention. So one of the other things that before I came back to RPI in 2007, I worked for a quote unquote a small company called Onto Technologies, which developed a lot of video compression and streaming technology, which is now what Google has as part of their whole WebM and AV1 and all the new kind of infrastructure for video streaming on the web and so on. So I'm a big proponent and technologist when it comes to video compression and streaming. So I feel terrible every time everyone gets a bad quality stream. I feel it's my fault, but it is out of our hands at this point. It's up to everybody's implementation. Some are better, some are worse than others. So I feel everyone's pain and I feel bad. But anyway, okay. So back to game programming. Run out of time here. So what is game programming? Wow. So these days it means lots of different things. It's not just, not necessarily just typing code. It's not the hardcore C programming it might have been. Games and game engines have lots of different ways that you can program them, right? Sometimes we think of it as coding. You'll hear the term scripting. Certainly you hear the term programming. Call it whatever you will, but what it really means is that it's the process of taking some idea or algorithm or mechanism that you want to implement, and you want to encode it in some other notation or a programming language in order that the computer can execute it, right? Computers you can't just say like, well, maybe eventually as AI gets better and better, you just say, well, I want something that kind of does this, and it'll just go ahead and do it, Then it'll be doing more of the programming. It'll be a real natural language. But so far, when you want to be very specific to computers, we generally adopt or adapt a programming language because we want to explain to the computer and facilitate the development of a program in the computer to execute what we want it to do. So, we want it to do what we want it to do. And we have to express that in terms of a programming language or programming in order to get it to do that. So some of you are saying, but I'm an artist, I'm a writer, I'm a musician. Why do I have to program? Why am I here? I'm going to hate this, right? Well, don't worry. Anyone who's taking this course, chances are they have some deep-seated. They also have a bit of inclination when it comes to art and writing and music and games and graphics and so on, right? Everybody in this program tends to be very interdisciplinary. People who are interested in this course tend to be very interdisciplinary one way or another. So even the most programmer, centric people here tend to have other ideas. They have a story they want to tell. They want to have some kind of idea that they want to put out there. It's not necessarily just about coding, right? For all of us, and we're going to, take advantage of that. So even if you don't think you're a coder, you will be closely working with coders at some point, sooner or later, if you're working in game development. So it's good to kind of also have a appreciation for what each other do. You want to know the lingo when someone says, "Oh yeah, there's a component of this object, and I need a background task running and whatever," so they don't just BS you. As non-coders, non-programmers, you can say, "Well, I know what's you can know the lingo, talk the talk, walk the walk, understand what's going on," and that's important because sooner or later, the creative output, the creative side of things, the music, the animation, the art, and so on and so on. It's going to come alive in the game through programming. Someone's going to have to program it, So you may very well have to be communicating with lots of other people to say, okay, how do we bring this to life, right? It's all part of that process, all right? So this course is just as much about that give and take back and forth and how to, turn creative things into code as it is to learn the nuts and bolts of some of the coding. So, all right. There's this myth that a lot of people sometimes come in with. They say, okay, I'm just going to do art I'm just going to be a producer. I'm just going to be a writer. I'm here as a designer. I'm here as whatever. I'm here as a programmer. And I'm going to do just that. It's called silo thinking, right? You think, I can just do this. I'm just going to be a rigger. I'm just going to be a lighter. I'm just going to be whatever. And the reality is that it's this mushy part in between. There's a swirl of, it helps to know a little bit. Your part's going to touch this other part over there. And it's going to be little bits and pieces that is going to intertwine in different ways, right? So it's this wonderful melange of skills and colors and effort and so on. All right, so that's the background. Let's get back to the programming side a little bit. Get out of breath, catch my breath. So for the most part, what we're talking about here and what we're managing and working with are rules and data, right? We have some data that we have rules that control how it acts or how it's acted upon. We have these actions that we want to have, like actions can be sort of rules or, actions, things that happen as a result. And they're objects, right? You've probably heard the term object-oriented programming at some point, or a game object, or anything in a game, anything that has a presence, has a group of features and so on. You kind of think of those as being the objects in game programming, or programming in general, right? So, okay, piece of cake. We got all that, right? No, and then you see this code and you're like, oh my gosh, terror, fear, makes some sense. Now, this isn't even C#, so this isn't even code you would see in Unity and so on, but it can be daunting, it can be daunting. Now, some good advice. Now, this is not going to come through unless I play it real loud. And I'll let you do this. This is your first homework assignment. Look up Jake the Dog gives a piece of worldly advice. And what Jake the Dog says...
Dude, sucking at something is the first step towards being sort of good at something.
Did you hear that? Sort of? Jake the Dog says...
It cut in and out a little bit.
Yeah,
okay.
really curious.
Sucking at something is the first step towards being good at something. Okay? You have to fail first before you can sort of succeed. You have to learn from things. And one of the best ways to learn something is just to try it, fail miserably, learn from the experience, kind of move on, build a new version, try a different thing, and so on, right? So you shouldn't feel overwhelmed or daunted or anything. We're all going to be learning stuff as we go, and nothing's going to work right out of the box, half the time or more than half the time. So don't worry, right? There's this wonderful thing, and I hope this comes through. The graphics a little bit. There's no shame flute. We aren't barbarians in this class. Now, the shame flute, I love the concept of this, and I'm thankful that it's... the shame flute was a medieval torture device used for shaming bad musicians. It's kind of if you've ever seen the stocks or pillories in these kind of, villages where someone who did something wrong, they would put them in a thing with their neck and their hands, and they'd make them sit out in public, and everyone would mock them, and, they would be publicly shamed. And this particular version was for shaming bad musicians. So if you had committed an act of bad musicianship, or you were just, a crime against music, you would be put in one of these and made to stand in public, and you would actually lock your hands around this shame flute and around your neck, so people would know that you were some kind of evil musician that were trying to, you're particularly bad. Now, we're not going to do that here. So in this class, there's not going to be a lot of presentations in front of the class for everybody. You'll have an opportunity at the end to sort of publish your final project, and you can kind of share it with other people. But as you go along, I know everybody's going to be going at different speeds, different rates, different comfort levels with different things. So don't worry, there is no shame flute. Everybody from every different kind of background and level, it's totally, totally fine. We're all friends and family here, right? The challenge... Now, is anyone familiar with the myth of Sisyphus? Okay. Now, with Sisyphus, and now I'm going to forget it again, I believe he stole fire from the gods or something like that. And the punishment for this crime of stealing fire from the gods was that he had to push this boulder up this hill every day. And push the boulder up the hill, and the moment it got to the top, it would just roll to the bottom, and he'd have to push it back up again. So that sounds terrible, to just be doomed to doing the same thing over and over and over again. But I submit that perhaps, what if Sisyphus was the ultimate physical fitness buff, and he was like super into this, constantly working out, and he constantly wanted the opportunities to like, work on his, his whole body exercise and so on. And so that he became like, okay, it's the process, enjoying whatever it is that you're doing. Look at the bright side. Some people will enjoy things just for the sake of doing it, right? So the secret of enjoying the challenge, sometimes the secret is enjoying the challenge, right? So a lot of programming, I find, people who are kind of drawn to it is, just enjoy the challenge of it. Don't get frustrated by things. It's not always, sometimes it will be a means to an end. It's like, okay, I need to do this because I need this in my game, so I'm just going to have to suffer through it. But, sometimes it's nice to just, learn along the way and realize, hey, this is, enjoy the process of learning it. So take that for a bit of advice. Enjoy whatever it is that you're doing. Make the best of things. Okay, so I'm sure you've heard that programming is hard. All right, programming is general. I talked about this, a little bit about programming in general. But what is different about game programming? Why is there specifically a game program? Are you all taking CS1? Some version of CS1? So shouldn't that be good enough? Why do you need that and game programming? Why, right? So game programming, the big difference in game programming versus other types of programming, and there are some that also cross this, is this notion of interaction, right? Normally you don't write a game that plays itself. I mean, some people do that for research sake and so on. But there's normally this interaction between the player and the game, or multiple players and each other and so on. And it's this interactive sort of thing. There's feedback. There's a loop of, the player does something happens on the screen, the player reacts, the player has emotions, the player dodges out of the way, the player's scared. And this constant interaction at a scale that is appropriate for the experience, right? It's at a human scale, both with regards to time and space, right? Now, there may be turn-based games where time doesn't travel exactly like it would according to the wall clock. That's fine. But generally, there's this notion of sort of some time or turn or something where you do something and then something happens, and there's a progression as things go on. And usually in games these days, there's also this spatial aspect. There are graphics, there's audio, there's things that occupy our space, our senses, right? So it's this sensory aspect of things. A lot of programming, if you're doing back-end web development, that's just crunching through numbers and data for Visa online or Amazon to figure out, okay, who likes who should be recommended this particular brand of mouthwash based on the fact that they constantly order Doritos. That's a different type of programming. There's a human data piece of it, but the interaction is quite different. It's not, game programming has this real-time aspect of it and this back and forth and so on. That can be quite different than lots of other types of programming. So that's what's kind of different, right? This sense of involvement and back and forth, and the user's really part of the situation, right? In your CS1 classes, you'll probably be like, sort these numbers. It doesn't matter the user experience there, but in playing a game, we have to say, well, okay, did you get it? Is it responsive? Did it do the right thing? Were people able to understand it, and so on? There's much more of a user experience involved there. All right. So what are we going to do that? How are we going to get the point across? Now we're going to be using Unity. Has a couple of people used Unity before? You've probably maybe heard of Unity. So Unity is sort of one of the big two. There's the big two game engines, Unity and Unreal. Those are the kind of the two big game engines. There's lots and lots of other ones as well. During the course of your career here at RPI, you're going to encounter a bunch of them. You'll probably at least encounter the two of those for different projects and things. Unity, I like Unity. There's certain things that Unity is good at that maybe Unreal isn't quite as good at, and back and forth. There's lots of arguments about what engine's the best engine. I don't really want to get into all that. But Unity is really great because it is very broad. It has lots and lots of tutorials. It has a really great community. It's got good support for 2D and 3D. It's very accessible and so on. It's a great kind of starting engine. And it's a professional engine that is used in industry, and lots of AAA games and lots of games are developed with it. So it's certainly a heavy hitter, and it's a real game engine. The version that we're going to use, I I made a decision to go ahead and we're going to just use the latest and greatest version. So if you go to Unity, as of yesterday, and it may have changed by tomorrow or today, whatever, but the version that I was looking at was 2020.1.3F1. Now, this is a beta release. It's not a LTS release. And LTS, which you may have seen on their site, means long-term support, meaning it's kind of feature complete and it's, they're going to support it in the long term. So 2020 is more the hot off the presses. It's kind of beta, but, it's the newest, or new enough to cover lots of bases. Stick with that version, okay? By the time we're done, the 2020.1.4 or 5 or something may have come out, 2020.2, some other major version. Don't arbitrarily change to a new version, right? Just in case, because that's the version I'm going to stick with. So whenever you're developing something, we want to know that, your version, whatever you develop, is going to be compatible with the version that's on my machine and vice versa and that sort of thing, so that we can kind of be on the same page. So try to stick with this version. It's gotten easier to deal with because of the Unity hub and things, easier than it was in even just a few years ago. So don't upgrade unless we sort of all agree to upgrade. And that'll make sense. So that's the version we're going to use. All right. Now, creating games, you're probably going to need other stuff as well, right? There's usually other artsy stuff that I need in my games. So in this class, do we have to worry? Do we have to create our own art? Do we have to create our own music? Do we have to create, everything from scratch? No. Some classes you do. Once you get into Game Dev 1 and the upper level classes, we're going to expect you to create your own assets, your own artwork, your own music, and so on. But for this class, it is Intro to Game Programming after all. So we're going to focus more on the programming side of things and not worry as much about the art. You're welcome to use your own art, but be careful not to get bogged down or sidetracked too much in the art side. Quite often I'll point at, a sample library or somewhere you get music, or like the Kenny game assets that you see here. There's a Unity asset store. There's game art, open game art. There's itch.io, lots and lots of places to get game art. I don't recommend you use anything that you have to pay for. Okay, use free stuff and use the simplest possible things. I do not want people using pre-made code, right? Some stuff you'll get from the asset store might be libraries of code. Nope, you can't use that, okay? All the code that you do in this class should be original, unless specified otherwise. If I provide you with an asset pack or something, that's obviously fine. But you can go ahead and use pre-made assets for art, and the same goes for sound and music, right? I'm not going to try to figure out, did you actually acquire the rights from Beyonce to use her last whatever, I mean, if you feel that you need the latest song from whoever to realize your artistic vision, I'm not going to argue with that. But do stick with open assets, free, open source things when you can, royalty free when you can. Especially if it's something that in the future you might want to publish, use a portfolio piece and so on. So it's best to use free and open assets as opposed to commercial things. But anything goes, as far as I'm concerned. Right? Because this is Intro to Game Programming. The programming piece of it is really the part that I'm going to be, quite frankly, judging you on. Right? Or this is the part that I'm going to, trying to figure out, get the point across, instructing you on, that sort of stuff. I'm certainly open to helping out if you've got music you're working on or art and so on. I'm a big fan of Blender and Krita and Ableton and Audacity and lots of audio and video stuff as well. But the focus of us in class is going to be on the programming side. Okay, so everybody's ready to do lots of typing, right? Everybody psyched for typing?
Yeah.
But wait. Okay. There's more, and this is new, and I'm excited about this. This is new because there's a way to program without typing. Are you impressed? Now, if you hate typing, there's another type of programming, and this is the first semester. Well, we did this a little bit over the summer, But now I'm going to make this officially a viable thing to use. This is one asset that is in the Unity Asset Store, and I'll show you how to get to it. It's called Bolt, and it's developed by another company, a company called Ludic, and it has been licensed by Unity to be their visual programming language, their visual scripting language. And visual scripting tools have become sort of a common theme. Unreal has their Blueprint system, which is a visual scripting language. Even Godot, which is an open source engine, that has a visual aspect to it. And now Unity is offering Bolt. It's a free asset now. You used to have to pay for it. Now it's free. And Unity is planning on making that sort of one of their central pieces going forward in terms of, offering that as a real option. It's very similar to actually programming. And you'll see a lot of the structures, a lot of the program flow. There's lots and lots of commonality of the interfaces and APIs and things, but it's just done in a very visual way. And we can kind of look at that, and I'm going to sort of knit that into the course as we go along. So I'm going to put that out there for those of you, if you totally text phobic, Bolt is an option, and we'll be getting into that a little bit. So, and then the other cool thing about Bolt is that you can mix and match. So you don't have to be all text, all script, all functional programming, or all visual programming either. And we'll show how to kind of mix between the two. And that's a common thing even in Unreal. You can use blueprints and C++, and other scripting, visual and functional and object-based programming languages. You can do that sort of thing. So we're going to have those options. All right, that's exciting for this semester. There will be four projects that we'll do. That is going to be the majority of your grade. There's also going to be what's that? Participation aspect of things. Obviously, you're participating if you're doing your projects, but there's another discretionary, participatory, stay on the path aspect of it. Well, but there's 4 main projects of the class, and they're kind of across a bunch of sort of classic genres of video games. And what we want to do is cover a lot of different concepts and techniques kind of we're going to progressively go through them. So we normally start off with a simple text or audio adventure, kind of an escape the room. So sort of a one-room adventure with very, very minimal user interface. And we use that as an instruction to C# and Bolt now. And learning our way around the Unity editor and learning the Visual Studio community, ins and outs of that, and debugging and all sort of the basics, right? So we're going to start off with this simple text audio adventure, escape the room, and get our kind of a programming feet underneath us for that. And then we move to something we love to call the Apple Picker or Kaboom program. And that's more, it's a very arcade style with limited physics, and we start to introduce collisions using the different kind of built-in aspects of Unity, Unity's engine, Unity's timing and scheduling, and so on and so forth, and the physics engine and so on. And then we have a shoot 'em up bullet hell RPG style game. Your sort of top-down shooter. I love to use Enter the Gungeon as my great example of that. If you've never, you go ahead and Google Enter the Gungeon. That's a great example of a bullet hell shoot 'em up style game. There's plenty of other ones out there. Asteroids also kind of fits the mold for that one. And then lastly, we do sort of a platformer side scroller. If you're Super Meat Boy or Donkey Kong back in the day, old school, kind of typical side-scrolling platforming. And so the last 2 projects are sort of the bigger projects. That's where you get to be a little bit more creative. The first 2 don't do an awful lot of creativity on there, much more kind of guided on, okay, you have to have this, you have to have this, and so on. And then game mechanics are going to be very similar. The last 2, you're going to have much more ability to kind of exercise your own options and your design and so on, be more advanced. So the first 2 on that. For the most part, we're going to be 2D, okay? Unity's good at 2D. Unity's also very good at 3D. We can even mix and be a little 2.5D on things here. But developing a 3D game, especially if you need 3D assets or you're doing animation and so on, it's not just adding 50% more. It's adding, it's making it a lot more complicated. the good news is that any of the techniques that you're learning in the 2D side of things, in terms of the overall mechanics, how the engine works, overall how, the concepts are, that's going to directly map to the 3D versions. Okay, so we're going to be really focused on the programming aspect, which is going to be very similar 2D or 3D. So if you are really good at 3D, or if you really, by the time you go through the first project or two and you really want to do something, let's discuss it. We can kind of open that up. Okay, now, so if you do the numbers and you said, okay, each of us are going to do 4 projects and there's 20 of us in the class or so there's going to be 80 projects that I have to somehow keep track of. And there's been semesters where I've had 50 plus students in here, so that wound up being like 200 projects we had to keep track of, which now that I've lived with that a bunch of times, came up with this new method, and this is going to be what you're going to do. Okay, your first project, or your first thing, your game 0 project, is actually going to be a shell, and that is going to be the one project to rule them all. Right, so you're going to have one project that you create that is going to contain 4 scenes, and each of those scenes is really going to be your other projects. Okay, so this way I only have to deal with 20 projects instead of 80 projects. Well, of course, all the content will be there, but in terms of some of the logistics, it'll make it much, much easier to deal with. All right, so you're going to use a USA single project. I feel suddenly I'm Jar Jar Binks there. USA a single project. Use a single project to contain all your prototypes as scenes. And we'll get into that later. And what I'll even do is I'm going to give you some packaged assets that will be sort of a simple version of this scene that you can kind of start from. Okay. So this will enable you from that to set up Unity team seats and collaboration once we have that in place. And we're going to use that through the rest of the semester. So this Unity team seats and collaboration is an important piece. What do I mean by that? Okay, so first off, homework 0, is to create an account, download Unity. You can get the educational version, not the personal version. Either one will work, but go for the education one. You get a little bit more with that. Get Visual Studio Community, I guess is the right one. Use version 2020.1.3. Changes happen fast, but stick with that. If you just go through the normal unity.com, you can get the versions there. There's other ways to get older versions, or if you need a particular version, using archive versions, but you don't have to worry about that. When you name your Unity projects, you're going to be tempted. You're going to say, okay, now I can open up a project. Let me create a new project. One of the things to be careful of, once you create a Unity project, changing the name of a Unity project is a non-trivial thing. Okay. So it's best to be deliberate. When you open a project, choose a name, choose it carefully, because you may have to live with that name for a while. Otherwise it might be a pain in the butt to change the name. Okay. So for submitting your project and creating that project for the first time, the one that you use in this class is going to be, you're going to open it as a 2D project, and you're going to name it according to this method here. Now, you see, your RCS ID is your email address here at RPI, without the @rpi.edu part, right? So for me, for example, it'd be AMEREE_GSAS_2540, and that's the name of the project. All right, so you can go ahead and do that. And then you're going to be able to create an organization, which is going to be your RCSID_ORG. You may not have to do that right away. Actually, you don't have to do it right away, but that'll be part of the collaboration. If it asks you to create an organization, go ahead and create that organization for you. So just, again, your RCSID SmithJ12_ORG, right? Organizations are things that can share projects across them, right? So if you were working with four other programmers, you could share a project among you, and it would automatically do all the housekeeping and provide backup services and things like that. It's really, really cool. It makes life much easier to deal with using the teams, Unity teams, and collaboration. Believe me, it's one of the easiest version control, version management systems to use. It's not the most feature-rich or anything by any means, and you'll learn some other ones if you've ever used Git or Perforce or whatever. But this thing that I keep referring to, Unity Collaborate, it's going to be your friend by the time we're done. Trust me. All right, a lot to take in today. Don't worry. All right. So this is where it's going to take you. My apologies, I didn't update this frame, but you're going to see that it's going to be you're going to download Unity Hub, okay, and it will install the latest version, not 2019.3. It'll be 2020.1. Whatever. You're going to use the Unity Hub to do that. The Unity Hub will help also manage your projects and things as they go on. All right. When you're adding the Unity version, okay, this is scrolled down a little bit, right? So I think I've scrolled past the main install up here, but I wanted to make sure that you saw these things. You want to install the Microsoft Visual Studio Community 2019. It's big. It is big, but go ahead and install it. And also, do we have any Mac users out there? Everyone PC based?
I use a Mac.
Okay.
I use a Mac.
Who uses a Mac? Okay. If anyone uses Mac, it's okay. In this class, Macs are totally fine. Okay. So you might choose Mac build support mono. You don't need to. Really, the Mac build support and Windows build support are sort of optional, but we do want to add WebGL build support. That's something that'll come into use later, right? That's going to enable us to build and package and distribute a version of our games. Okay. We're going to be publishing our games on itch.io. So you're going to go through the process of actually packaging up your game, deploying it on the web, so then you can say to your friends, your parents, your classmates, your friends and your classmates should be the same thing, hopefully, and me, so we can go to that page and see your program running, as it should be, right? The WebGL, we use that for that. Now, if you wanted to hand out a Windows executable or a Mac executable or an app or something like that, those are all the other packages. But for now, the WebGL support is going to be the one thing that we want to have for that. All right. Now, here's what I was mentioning about the organizations. And this sometimes this goes really wonderfully, smoothly. Sometimes it doesn't. Let's hope it goes smoothly for all of you. Normally, it's going to ask about creating an organization and inviting members. So I'm the only member you're going to invite to your team and assign a seat, right? Now, do not use AMEREC at rpi.edu. This was just an example. I was inviting my son to my project, right? So you're going to create an organization and invite a user or invite members to that, and you're going to say AMEREE at rpi.edu. Okay, so if you do see these screens, remember, I'm the one you're sharing. You want me in your organization so I can see your submissions. All right. Once you set that up, you wind up with this really cool little extra button up here. And you also wind up, and now with 2020, I think this is slightly different now. Before you get the Collaborate button, you have to enable the services. And the service that you enable is this Collaborate service. All right. And once you have that, then you can publish stuff to this server, and it'll keep track of extra copies for you and all that kind of stuff. It'll be great. So, rules or things to think about. I mentioned, be careful naming your projects. Use Unity teams. Get used to it right away. There's great information on there. I'll post some links on the Discord as well. The Unity documentation is actually very good online and has special sections talking about Unity Collaborate and teams and all that sort of stuff. Use it often. I'd like to see it. It's important to me when we get towards when a project is finally due, if I see, okay, because it's a way that I can see how often have you been committing things, how often have you been putting things into your project. I can actually see, oh yeah, you made all your commits the day before it was due. That's bad practice, right? It's better to be, the first day or as early on as possible, you created the project and you started making regular updates to it on that server. So that's good because it shows that you're making incremental progress, and it also is great because it's a backup. Anything happens to your computer or you make a change that breaks something, You can always go back. That's the cool thing about this version control, right? It's not just a way to share with other people. It's also a way to back up your software, back up your work, and be able to incrementally look. So you can say, oh, okay, how did this version that I made today, how's that different from the version I worked on last week or 2 weeks ago or last year even, right? It's really, really cool from that aspect. So version control is cool. You might see other version control and version management systems as you go through your careers, but Unity Team is a nice, simple, easy introduction to that. So you should try to initialize a new project as soon as you start your project and submit your changes every time you work on a project. And I'm going to look for that. And it's potentially worth points. If I see you're making regular progress, that's important. I don't like when people just, sometimes they make, if you do everything perfect at the very end, it's hard for me to blame, whatever. But, if you run into lots of problems and I see you've never committed anything before, you never asked me to help on older versions, anyway. So make sure you've shared the project that way and so on and so on and so on. All right, that'll be good. Now, another thing about the class, you're going to need to manage your ambition. Avoid temptation, right? Because you're going to find that there's certain things, one thing may stand out to you as being the most important thing. And you're going to get totally overwhelmed. You say, okay, it went too far. And the goal of this class is to have a good, basic hamburger that meets the needs, that checks the boxes and so on. It's not about just the pickles or just the, it's easy to get sidetracked and overwhelmed and try to add too much and impress me with all kinds of, whatever. So you have to be careful, manage your ambition. It's better to be, have a basic implementation of all the things that you need to in your project as opposed to getting stuck on one particular thing or getting, kind of over-ambitious on one particular thing. At the end of the worst thing is if, someone supposed to do a side-scroller platformer game or whatever, and it's like, yeah, check this out, there's one cool attack and it does whatever. And it's like, well, where's the rest? Where's the level of your game? Where are the traps and where's the music? It's just all about this one cool attack. And when I do this one attack and that's not a prototype for a game. That's a demonstration of one concept, right? It's not about making the ultimate version of something. It's about, making sure you've covered all the bases. So anyway, that's the background for today. Now it's 3:35. Okay, still good. So we still have some time. Now, any questions?
I have a question, although I'm not too sure if you I guess I'll just ask the question. So me going in as a CS major and eventually next semester doing into GSAS, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm still required to put in a portfolio, and my question is just in this class, with whatever I make in this class, I'd be able to submit as my portfolio, or
yes. I mean, you can anything. Certainly, you could use anything from this class. You'd probably want, any of these
stuff
things
outside of the class as well.
Sorry?
Probably. I said I probably also want stuff outside of the class as well, right?
Right, but you'd also, with regards to stuff in this class, especially if it's a portfolio kind of thing, you'd want to go beyond checking all the boxes and the features.
Yeah.
Because it's going to be, any portfolio evaluations to be evaluated in a much broader sense than just, okay, is the programming okay? So
I understand that.
Bigger picture kind of thing.
All right.
So I would go deeper on some of these things, polish a few things, personalize them, make them kind of stand out more than kind of the generic versions. If you use exactly the same Bayat platform or artwork and you use the same exact swinging ball of death and chain shooter that I show you how to do, someone's going to ask me to evaluate that and say, yeah, that's exactly what everybody else in the class did. So that's the thing. It's easy. I guess that's a good point. Now, the way I like to sort of with regards to things, checking the boxes and going through, and as long as you follow one of the main things in this class, it's certainly structured in a way it's easy to get a decent grade in this class. Nobody should worry. If you put in the time, you kind of work progressively, you don't get too carried far behind, you're going to do okay in this class. Okay. To do really well in the class, I am going to be looking for people clearly showing that they're not just following the tutorial and doing exactly and executing and cutting and pasting the code. Okay, you have to really demonstrate that you understood it. You know, that's going to be things like putting comments in your code, doing things, you know, applying some degree of creativity. You know, just because it's programming doesn't mean that it's devoid of creativity or, you know, letting your personality come through, right? So there is some of that is expected, you know, customizing it and really kind of demonstrating and so on, right? So that's the difference between A, B, C in this class sort of things. You know, definitely, you know, just having a minimal project that checks, you know, most of the boxes, yeah, you can get to a, you know, better than passing grade with a, you know, you know, kind of things in the class. But, you know, to get all the way to the top, you really want to be, you know, following it. So, you know, this isn't meant to be as rigorous as, you know, full-on CS course by any means either. So don't get too worried. Sorry to mean scaring you off with that sort of thing. But, you know, you should be, you know, if you're, especially if you're a GSAS student, you should be looking for ways to kind of differentiate yourself. It's a very, very competitive field. So you want to be, and I mean this for everybody, not just for as a portfolio kind of thing, but, you know, really across the board. You should be really trying to take all these things to heart and kind of do really cool stuff with it. So, all right, that's the official presentation. Now, let me jump over here to, hopefully, yeah, all right. We're over here in Intro to Game Programming, and already there is a few things in here. There's nothing in lecture notes just yet. I'll probably put today's stuff in there. Not too much stuff to refer to, but the important part is that I have a PDF version of the syllabus here. Hopefully I got the right version. And here's the live link here, syllabus and schedule. And if you click on this, and then you click on this, it'll actually bring you over to the Google Doc version. Hopefully I've got the right version. All right. And a lot of this is just what we just talked about. And some more specific things, helpful forums, other places to get code, kind of what what you expect, what you should be getting out of things, and the course assessment measures. Okay, so just to talk a little bit more about, you know, how the points add up and how we're going to, you know, make sure that everyone stays on track and sort of things. Okay, now, so the assessments are the discretionary points, participation and attendance. So throughout the semester, each student will be expected to participate in a variety of class online discussions like today. Participation can take a variety of forms, from asking or answering a question to reflecting on your experiences with programming, offering tips you've learned, etc., right? So it's great to participate in the Discord, especially, you know, you can ask each other questions, right? General concepts, saying, hey, I saw this really cool technique for whatever, and you share that, and someone talks about it, or someone has a problem, you want to help one another out, that's totally fine. You don't want to be sharing, explicitly solutions to the homework, to solutions to, you know, wholesale big chunks of things necessarily. If someone's stuck on a bug and, you know, they're trying to debug something, you can help them debug a problem, yes. But, you know, there's a line where, you know, if I see people submitting code that's exactly the same as one another, you know, we're going to be careful of those borders, right? We want people collaborating, or helping each other out, not so much collaborating in this class. Collaboration plays a big role in Game Dev 1, 2, experimental games, and all the other one, because games are big team efforts. But in this class, there shouldn't be any collaboration, but you can be helping each other out and being part of a community. Definitely would like to see that. All right. Now, this part at the end here, this is new. I will be conducting check-ins with each student on a bi-weekly basis. So, you may be saying to yourself, well, how am I making sure I'm getting my tuition's worth, and this isn't just another online class? And I say the same thing. I would say, well, make sure that the experience here is not, you know, that you are getting as much out of this as possible, making this as close to, if not better than, in some ways, the in-person experience that we'd have if we could all be in the same room. So what I'm going to do is normally there's going to be a 1 hour worth of live, 1 hour-ish live lecture material at the beginning of each class, right? So the first from 2:30 to 3:30, which we've totally blown past, would be our real lecture material. And then because there are 20 plus of you in the class, if I give everybody 10 minutes, that comes out to 200 minutes, right? Which is a lot of minutes. So the second hour of class is going to be dedicated towards those sort of meetings, okay? So it would be every other week. I'll have a 10-minute, and we'll work it out. We won't do it this week, but hopefully starting next week or as soon as it makes sense. I'll be doing these sort of bi-weekly check-ins. We're going to have basically a 10-minute meeting with you every other week. All right. Now, what I'm going to also do is you're going to get more. It's not just, in addition to that 1 hour of live material at the beginning of class, I'm also going to be posting other material as well. Pre-recorded lectures, links to other content, other tutorials, things I find. There's a lot of great resources out there. Brackies is a great YouTube channel. Who's some of the other ones? Infenzia is another one. Thomas Brush is okay once in a while. Anyway, I'll be posting lots and lots of other materials in addition to my technical demonstrations on things as well. So there'll be lots and lots of content for you. You'll be getting certainly probably more than 4 hours of content, class content a week. But in order to get because I know that on your schedules you have this time available, so I know I should be able to meet with you, and I don't want to, stress anyone out saying, well, yeah, it's 8 o'clock on Tuesday, I'm going to meet with you. That would be just, for me and you, it would be terrible. So we'll use the second hour of class as those check-in times. So there'll be basically 2 hours of offline material for you to consume at your own pace. Maybe not a whole 2 hours, but a bunch of material that's more kind of tutorial online stuff. And then 2 hours-ish of live lecture material at the beginning of each class. And then you'll have your 10-minute bi-weekly check-in. Does everyone kind of get that? Make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense.
Okay. So this way I can keep track, who's having it, who's around, and so on. Now, all right, so that's part. I'm going to come back to that in just a minute. I want to go through the class projects a bit. We'll talk as we go through here a little bit more. So the class projects, they are sort of progressive in the number of points that they're worth. So each of you is going to be responsible for completing the 4 class projects as homework. All right. You will combine lessons from class and practice and programming skills and do different things. You are free to certainly bring in other techniques that you've gotten from other places, but I'm always going to be making sure or looking for you to have implemented the things as we've sort of talked about them so it makes sense. There's a million different ways to do the same thing. If you're, putting in tile, I've seen a lot of inefficient ways to use tile maps, so I will be looking for the right and wrong way to do certain things. But sometimes it's you may very well discover some technique I've never encountered before in some new version, and you want to, try that in your program. And that's cool, as long as there's a reason for you doing that instead of the version that we did in class and so on. So there's always, ways to pull in, but kind of be careful as the more you diverge from the normal class stuff, the more I'm going to the more closely I have to look at it, sort of things. So you're responsible for doing your class projects as homework. A certain amount of originality is expected. Okay, your project grades will suffer if there's too much of a carbon copy or cut and paste. Right? If your project is really, really cut and paste, techniques, it still maybe will get to 90, but cut and paste projects have a hard time really busting into that A category. And by cut and paste, it could be very well just, the techniques of, really having taken the time, but even commenting the code and making it, sure that it's obvious from it that you understood it as opposed to it just works. All right. So I need more than the code's exactly the same and it just works to get, A-level work. It's not really hard to do. It's just, you gotta be, this is all about getting ahead on that. All right. But that said, fair number of students get A in my course. So just don't cut and paste. So again, these are rough due dates in here. I think I updated them. Yeah, okay. So in about a little bit more than 3 weeks, our one-room adventure is due. It's worth 15 points. or 15%. You'll see it'll show up in LMS as, out of 15. The apple picker is worth 22 points. Let's see, maybe, can I zoom in here? Sorry. There we go. How's that? Even better. So, 15 points for the first one, 22 points for the second, and so on. I like to see people do some of everything. I hate when people wind up like just skipping the last project and saying, it's okay, I took it pass fail, just give me the D. And I'm like, oh, nothing breaks my heart. The times that I have seen that happen and here's the warning, there's a lot of work. It's a fair amount of work. If you do it progressively, if you take the time, you don't get behind, it shouldn't stress you out. You should be fine. That's the key to this class, is the incremental. The moment you start to have a problem, ask, hey, this code isn't working, or this, whatever, I tried this thing. Don't write tons and tons and tons of code or create all sorts of graphs that you think might work because you followed a bunch of steps in a tutorial, but the first step didn't work, right? If step 1 in the tutorial didn't work, stop there, reach out to me, find out, why didn't that work before just pasting objects all the way to step 23 and then trying to debug it, okay? That is the one of the biggest things, okay? Stay current, try to make progress, look into things, and you'll be fine, and you'll do well. The biggest foe of things is to get too far behind. Reach out to me anytime. I know people have things going on in their lives. They have stuff. You're all new to RPI. You're in the middle of a pandemic. Whatever. I understand. I get all that. That's totally we're here for more than just this class as well. So try to keep making progress as you go, and you'll do good. You'll do fine. In here, I did mention about this submitting assignments, the semi-weekly check-ins, and so on. So the way that projects are submitted is you're going to submit them actually in kind of 2 ways. There's 2 steps to a submission. One is that it has to be pushed to the Unity collaboration system. Okay? Once it's pushed to Unity Teams and I can see it, then I can download the project, get the latest version, run it on my computer. Even if you have a bug, this is the coolest thing, right? If you as long as you're pushing it on there, the first thing normally I see when someone's on Discord and say, I'm having a problem with my program, I said, did you push the latest version? Okay, you did. All right, let me download it. Where's the problem? And then we can sit there and kind of debug it. Try to figure out what's going on. And maybe I'll share my screen, you'll share your screen through Discord, and so on. Kind of work through things. That's why it's called Collaborate. That's why it's called Teams. Okay, so that's why getting that to work is as good as it is. It also will track when changes were made. So I can say, okay, at this time you submitted this version to the team server. I know it's on time. Okay? Along with that, because LMS is where we do our official grading and stuff like that, where we keep track of that sort of thing. So you can look up and see, okay, where am I? What did I get on the class and so on. There's going to be usually a 1-page, couple of paragraphs thing that you're going to submit with your project on LMS. That's going to say, okay, here's my project, here's the rules of my game, here's what I learned, here's the techniques I had. Not a lot of writing, but maybe your for the last 2, I like to see a design document, not a 50-page design document, but like a 2-page design document saying, okay, here's my ideas for the level, here's my ideas for my characters in the game, and here's where I got to, that sort of thing. Very lightweight design documentation. So you're going to submit that on LMS, so I have something to attach your grades to, and then you're going to submit on the Unity team server throughout the semester, just so you have the backup and so on. So then I can see, okay, that's really where the work was done and the code is put. Okay, so that's where those 2 things live. All right. So that's what we say here about these. And the semi-weekly check-ins are just, kind of getting ahead and submitting and checking things in there. So you should be thinking, I like to see at least 3 submissions to the Unity team server. It should be like the initial one once you set your project up and you're ready to go, and then, midway point and a final submission at least. That seems at least reasonable. I do see a lot of people suddenly at the very end, they remember like, oh my gosh, I forgot to put it on the collab server, and just day before it's due or whatever. Lateness. Okay. Lateness. Any assignment turned in late may be penalized 1 full letter grade for each day it is late by. Okay, so if it's due on Wednesday, you turn it in Thursday, you may get basically a B instead of an A, and so on. Okay. Any assignment not turned in after 5 days late will receive a 0. However, you can still make a submission of that project up to 2 weeks after that. So you can be 2 weeks late and get a 50. Okay. Basically, you can't get a passing grade for a project that is over 5 days late. However, 50% points is a lot better than 0 points. Okay. It will be judged, basically, if it's a 50% project, you see it says up to 50% credit. If it's a 50% project and you turn it in 2 weeks later, it's going to be 25% because this will be 50 of 50. If it's a good, decent project, you may get the full 50% credit for that. And that will be helpful, especially, if you've got everything fine and then just your last one you have to turn in on time because that's the end of the semester. But, it helps. It's basically saying, okay, there's a pretty reasonable window to turn things in and it will still count. Okay, I don't like people to get zeros on projects because there are techniques that you need and so on. All right. Here's our typical grade, kind of thing. I reserve the right to just do A, B, C, D, F. Whether I do A minus and B minus. That is sometimes there've been semesters where I get did all one, or sometimes where I got down into nitty gritty of things. So percentage on the cusp of a higher letter grade may be rounded up. And again, it's going to depend. Do I see you active? Do I see you answering questions? How many of the trivia questions did you get on Discord? Whatever. And so on. Grading concerns, appealing grades. These are all typical kind of boilerplate things. All right. Academic integrity. Boilerplate kind of things. Plagiarism. Electronic citizenship. Rights and responsibilities. That's all available. Expect you to be on top of things, not using, copied stuff without giving it credit. So if there is a technique that you learn from somewhere and you want to use something, that's not entirely your own, I prefer that you give credit for something. Like you say, oh, I found this on this, and this was demonstrated by whoever, and it's something that you don't entirely understand. It's better to at least, be referencing where you got something from if you do find that there's something you want to incorporate. When you're using artwork and assets and music in somewhere, you should be prepared to tell me in one way, shape, or form where it came from, right? So in that one-page document, you might say, oh, okay, these art assets came from Kenny.nl, or I used music from wherever, just so I kind of know. You should get in the habit of doing that sort of thing. All right. Some more specifics on behaviors, appropriate language. Now, the gaming industry is no stranger to all sorts of controversy with regards to how people treat one another. It's become a lot better. It goes through its ups and downs. But here at RPI, obviously, we are always looking to develop a very, very healthy community with respect and tolerance and inclusion, diversity, etc., etc. Right? So expect that to be related in the work. Okay. Obviously, there are games out there that push the limits of all sorts of limits. If that's going to be your personal project to go wherever and do whatever, I'm certainly not about censorship. However, we're looking for to develop professionals. We're looking for people who are team players, and that's all sorts of things that we want to see reflected by graduates of our program, and we want to see good citizens in the world based on that sort of thing. So everything from appropriate language and behaviors and how we treat and work with one another and so on. It should be good to one another because you may very well wind up on teams with one another in Game Dev 1, 2, experimental game design, and so on and so on. Here's where you get to start meeting and learning about one another and so on. So be good citizens, be good friends, be good neighbors, be a supportive community. And here's our tentative schedule. Again, where we are now, these dates in here, I've got the due dates not in exactly the right spots. My apologies for that. All dates are subject to change. So as we get closer to any particular due date, we'll kind of discuss that. Normally, if I've posted something wrong, I'll err on the side of, if someone's found, hey, here you said it was due next Wednesday, not tomorrow. I'd say, well, okay, you got me. I posted that, so therefore, everybody, you get an extra couple of days. So when I make a mistake, I take responsibility for it. But I do also expect everyone to be paying attention. So if I do change the date in a class or we have some reason to move a date, I expect that you're paying attention, that sort of thing. Whew. All right. That was a lot of stuff. It's 4 o'clock. Most of you stuck with it. So, like I said, in-class attendance, it's hard to worry about in-class attendance too much here. I'm going to be worried more about the attendance of your check-in sessions. You can miss one check-in, no questions asked. You may have to make up the work or something like that, but you overslept at 2:30 in the afternoon, whatever reason, one of them, no problem. If you miss more than one without some sort of excuse or reason or valid reason, then that may very well play a part into your participation grade not being the perfect grade that it should be. So that's built into that as well. So yes, it's a little bit more of a flexible discretionary participation system now, especially because these will be recorded. Lectures will be recorded. You'll be available. They'll be available for you offline as well. So just make sure you're checking in enough, that you're present enough. Yes, someone has a question. Someone has a question?
I guess that would be me. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have two actually.
Okay.
Just on general stuff we just went over.
Sure.
So the Bolt thing, is that already installed with Unity, or is that something we're going to have to get?
You will install that. That's going to be available through the asset store. So that's something you get separately.
Okay, and then so you talked about like check-in, like the 10 minutes we do during class. Will you have office hours outside of class?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Officially, office hours are, I think I posted them here in the syllabus because we have to do that. Tuesdays and Fridays. No, that's not right. It should be, those are the meeting times. Hold on, here we go. Oh, no, it is here. Okay, Monday and Thursday from 1 to 3 p.m. Okay?
Gotcha.
Or certainly by appointment. I am stuck in my house. So I'm available lots and lots of time. I'm considered an at-risk person, so I don't go out much. So I'm here for you.
If you want to make an appointment with you, do we just like shoot you a message or an email?
Yeah. Yep. I am probably on Discord more than I should be, so you can almost always get me through there. And certainly you're free to send me an email at any time. But yeah, email and Discord direct message are preferred. Any other questions? Oh, let's see if anybody.
I have one.
Let's see. Someone had asked about LMS posting of lectures. We ran into some problems, unless they've changed it now. The amount of room that you can post lectures on LMS, but the amount of room that they actually allocate for you is nowhere near what is required to post an hour to 2 hours of video or 4 hours of video a week. So that kind of maxed out. So I will usually post them on YouTube and give you the links, and there'll be like a playlist of all that. So, and somebody else had a question, a live question.
Yeah, I had one. So Because I was trying to set up Unity earlier, but there's no 1.3 F1. There's only a 1.4 F1.
Oh, okay. So that's the newest one. See, they do this to me all the time. Go ahead and get that one.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
there is a 1. That looked.
You can usually, I think you can get it if you go through the install. Let's take a quick look at Unity. Okay, so here I have Unity Hub. All right. And normally this is the classroom here that you see in the background is actually, if we were in Sage 2510, it used to sort of look like that. And anyway, that's our class in bygone times. Anyway, any Lego fans out there?
Yeah.
Okay, good. I have a Lego City. We'll have to visit my Lego City sometime.
Indeed.
All right,
I'd
so
be concerned if anyone was not a Lego fan.
I won't hold it against anyone. So you can have multiple versions of Unity installed. So you can, like here I have the 2021.3F. At some point it'll probably ask me in here if I just logged in or I just ran Unity Hub after the first time in a while. It'd say, a new version is available. Do you want to upgrade? And I would say no. But at this point, let's see. Well, new cloud projects. So you'll see through here, you can get to the community. Unity Learn. Unity Learn is now free. It used to be you had to pay extra. So there are a ton of materials through Unity Learn as well and good tutorials. Yeah, this used to be you have to pay for this before, but now it's free for everyone, which is amazing.
Yeah, I noticed when we installed it, it like told us that we could like choose a micro game or something as a like tutorial thing.
If you're creating a new project, I'll do this here. Just I'll probably bail out. So here, normally this is what you're presented with. Create a project using Unity. For some reason, it's defaulting in here to that version for me. You want to choose 2D, and you don't want any extras or anything like that. You just want to choose the basic 2D game for this, and you're going to name it like here's where I said before. If it was AMEREE. GSAS 2540. Now, oh wait, did I? Okay, it's important that your RCS ID is there because I'm going to use that as a way of searching for your project, right? So if your RCS ID, I will occasionally keep up with people semesters after their projects if they want to continue working on them. So I have lots and lots of these projects. So you have to make sure that you have, definitely named it appropriately there. So you're going to choose a 2D. Don't worry about high definition render pipeline, universal render pipeline, 3D with extras and all that. You just want the basic 2D project. Okay. And I've already created one here just as sort of a template. And so I'll go ahead and open that. And the Unity splash screen is on my other screen, so sorry for the empty screen here. And it might take a second. The later versions of Unity get longer and longer to start. They just more stuff in there. And I think I've already added Bolt to it, which does add to load time. That's the one bad thing about Bolt. Let's see, can I drag that? No, can't drag that. Oh, I can drag this. There we go. Uh-oh. Occasionally, things will slow down because of, Unity will try to do some back and forth sometimes with the team server. If you've already checked something in, or if you're opening a new project and it's trying to import new assets or things like that. So sometimes, there we go. And especially if you're online teaching a class, it'll always be take way more time. All right, so here's my Unity. I'm using dark mode now. Woo, exciting. And you'll see it's also said there's a new version of the Unity editor available for download. So, yep. Okay, so there must be, and I have my option here. I'm just, for now, say skip new version. So this is Unity. This is the basic Unity interface. This is a project I'm going to make available for you, or at least not a project, a set of assets that I'm going to make available for you. That's going to be, you'll see there is a main screen. This is the main screen with a button on it. And from there, let's see, the canvas. It has a button on the canvas, and that's going to be the thing that launches us into another scene. Right, so if I play my game right now, I'll hit play, and I have this button, and I click that button, and it took me to another scene in the game, and I can say, return to main, and it took me back to that one. Right, it doesn't look like much, it doesn't look like I really went anywhere, but I did. Okay, so here in the Unity interface, and we'll go through this more, kind of on Friday, yeah. As well, or I might do some extra recorded material on this. You'll see, normally you get a single scene when Unity comes up. So the Unity interface is made up of a bunch of different panes here. The main ones you're going to be working in are the scene, the hierarchy, the project, and you'll also see you have an inspector over here. These are the ones you deal with a lot. Okay, so this asset that I'm going to give you has a main scene. If I double click on that, this is where the main scene is, and this is, it can be named anything. It's just going to have a series of buttons in it, and they launch to other scenes. So like here I have an adventure scene, an apple tree scene, a platformer scene, and a shmup scene. And there'll be a button for each one of those, and then each one of those will have its assets in there. So right now there's no images. I have gone ahead and installed Bolt on this particular one. Yeah, there's a couple of things that have changed now in Unity 2020. So now the asset store has changed quite a bit. So to find Bolt, let's see, I think they're saying they want you to go through, let's see, we'll open up a Unity window here. Nowadays, you can go directly to the asset store through your web browser. And when you log into Unity, you'll log in through the web browser, and here we go. So you see I'm logged in here, and I can show any assets, 2D, templates, animations, so on and so on. And I can search, so if I get home, and you'll see one of the things that normally we'll have for you, we always like to be advertising Bolt, but you can come up here and just search for Bolt. And where's Bolt? There we go. I already have it installed, so. And you'll click on this, and it'll ask you to quote unquote buy it, I think, if you haven't already. And after you buy something in the asset store, now in Unity 2020, it will show up in your package manager under My Assets. So this is kind of one of the newer things in Unity 2020 is now, used to be the package manager only had packages, but now it's the place that you kind of manage your assets. And so from here you can see I've got lots of different assets that I have used in different projects and things. You probably went with fewer than that. But then once you have it, you can say, okay, Bolt, for example. And it's here, you'll be given the options to download it and then import it. And we'll run through the whole install of Bolt next time as well. Okay, so for now, if you want to do, if there's certainly, it's designed to be fairly easy, but I'll leave it up to you to at least install Unity, get through the basic install a Visual Studio and Unity. If you want to go through any of the Unity Learn tutorials, or you're probably just going to be swamped with all sorts of stuff in between now and Friday anyway with all your other class stuff. So just get Unity installed on your machine and whoops. Oh, wow, that was weird. Okay. Just get Unity installed on your machine for next Friday. Yes, it is Friday. All right. Create a project. It should ask you about creating a collaboration. If you can get through that, all the better. If not, we'll go through that as well on Friday. Any other questions?
I have a question about.
Okay.
It says the ID. Is it fine if I use Visual Studio Code?
That should be fine. I'm not sure you're going to run into any issues with regards to the IntelliSense kind of completion and inline help and documentation and stuff. I think that should be fine. Yeah. I forget the differences now between some of the code versus community. I think code is has more stuff built in, right? Or is it the other way around?
Yeah, they both have implementation. That's different to their ID. Yeah, thank you, Professor.
It should be fine. I'll double check on that one, but I believe that it's okay. There may be ways you may need to install, if you already have it on your machine. Like for instance, let me pull up. I guess I'm going to pull up Visual Studio here.
You get the student version, right?
Yes, you want the student version of Unity.
Okay, thank you.
So if you have Visual Studio, you may have to add, if you have another version, let me try to find, there are additional packages that you can install. You may have to go into the version manager or the, I forget if it's in account settings. There might be some additional things that you need to add to it. I can't remember where this screen is just off the top of my head. Yeah, I think it might be in here in the marketplace. Or here we go, installed SDKs. Hopefully, most of you shouldn't have to deal with this, but you'll see like here I've got P4V, which is let's see, another system, and somewhere in here it should say extensions for Unity and C#. So if you already have a code version installed, you may have to do a little bit of Googling and make sure you have all the packages included in there. All right, we'll take everybody down that road. Any other questions? Oh, there we go. Visual Studio 2019 tools for Unity. You need to make sure you have that installed. Okay. All right. It's 4:15, so I've kept you for even longer than I had imagined.
We're here till 4:20.
Well, we can end earlier, or we'll still be on Discord far beyond 4:15. Usually, I mean, like I said, I'm not really going anywhere, so I'm around all the time. Quick question I have: do any of you have a in-person lecture before or after this class? So,
I do have one before.
I have one.
And
I have an in-person.
I have one before.
I have one after.
I guess we'll have to. Is your intention? I assume. I mean, you could watch the live stream from anywhere potentially. So if you were on campus and you wanted to catch or participate from sitting out under a tree, that's totally fine. If you need extra time to get back to your dorm room to actually use your computer, I think they've already built that into the schedule, right? The amount of time you have in between classes is a little bit longer than it would normally
I
be?
heard that's why they pushed back classes so that people would have time to like get between them.
Okay. And this is probably your last class of the day then, at least? So you're not like leaving here to go to somewhere else and then go back, and hopefully it's not too bad. Is that...
Yeah.
All right.
I mean, I have like sometimes the teacher didn't really know what was going on with the schedule, but on SIS it says that I have a testing block like late in the day, so I have something after this kind of.
Okay. Yeah, the testing blocks are usually like reserved. You usually only use those like every so often when there's a midterm or a regular test in the class. So I think there's some flexibility there. But just let me know, definitely if you've got any running around issues, tell me sooner than later, and we can make adjustments. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, and I'm serious about the Ask Me Anything piece of things. I think I'm already getting some questions offline. All right. Yes, someone figured out what Eraser Mice is about. Okay.
Yay.
Cool.
All right. And all right. We'll call it a day. Congratulations on most of you had... Well, no, today's Tuesday, right? So you had your first day was yesterday. I don't know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations on making a great choice. RPI is, you're in pretty good hands, I'd like to think.
Thank you.
All right. Look forward to hopefully meeting you all in person one of these days. Who knows when that'll be, but sooner or later.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See ya.
Take care.
I have a question.
Oh.
Time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is
I also
it
have a
better?
question.
Oh. You can speak first. I asked one before.
I guess I'm still here. I can do this. There we go. Look. Yep. Am I here? Am I muted?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I was worried I was muted or something. Or did you want to ask a question over in the other one? Who had questions?
Oh no, I mean I can ask here too.
Sure.
So I think I got added to class a bit late, so I don't know if I don't think I have access to the LMS.
Okay.
Actually, I don't have access to the LMS.
Did you send me your form? Did I send it back yet?
No, not yet. You haven't sent
Okay.
it.
That might be. I got this semester. I've got like all kinds of crazy forms. Let me get that back to you. The moment I can't add you directly, so it has to come back. I'll get you your form in the next 15 minutes, and then just send that over to the registrar, and we'll get you squared away. As long as you're here, you're nothing to worry about. So we'll get that squared away. Autumn, right?
Yep.
Okay. Next question.
I have one. Okay. Are there any boundaries or restrictions to what you can do during your projects?
Couple of things. Generally, no, as long as you're covering the material that I've asked for. If I want, you can't like go way off on a tangent and never have done basic coroutines and inheritance and kind of the main topics. If you want to go above and beyond, absolutely, that's great. However, be careful to not, just like with the pickles graphic, if you wind up creating this epic game that takes me 4 hours to play, I don't have 4 hours to play every project that comes in. So sometimes people do like they'll enable God mode or cheats, or I'll cheat my way through a game, whatever, to make sure that I can evaluate all the basics, but it has to be within reason. None of these projects should necessarily be epic. You want to be careful not to smother the rest of your project in some sort of epic pickle fest like that.
Yeah.
Was.
Thank you.
But no, I like seeing. I've seen some amazing projects. Even it's the spectrum is fantastic. I've never ceased to be amazed.
Yeah, I have a more specific one.
Okay.
Now that is that in the syllabus it says 2D.
Yeah.
But I want to maybe implement 3D in 2D, if that would make sense.
It certainly kind of makes sense. it'd be it's a balance. It's like I can help you with a certain amount of that. I mean, certainly I can do 3D games and so. But the question will be like how much responsibility are you already taking for that, or if you have lots of experience doing a 3D game and you've already done assets in Blender and you've already done or Maya or something like that and can take responsibility for that, then yes. I'll introduce and talk about some of the basic concepts and some using some of the 3D graphics primitives and things like that in the course of the class, but it's tough to really dive deep into that given and also do the whole architecture as well. So we should probably discuss that. Usually when people have asked me that question in the past, they fell back to a 2D kind of thing and said like, oh, well, it turns out I was a lot busier than I thought. And, but it's, it's totally fine. There's no rule that it has to be 3D or it has to be 2D, but sometimes in the sake of getting as much covered as we need to, we can cover the concepts in 2D, and all those concepts are going to be things that you carry forward anyway.
Okay, thank you.
Looking forward to that one.
I will too. I have a lot of spare time, so I'll try mine.
All right, you'd be surprised. Any other questions?
Hi, yeah, I have a quick question. I recently started a Girls Who Code and a student dev club by Google. I was just wondering if I could post the PDF in the Discord in the general chat for people to join.
Not really. Since this is officially an RPI course and me being able to manage it right now, I have to stay focused on, I mean, there's a lot of, any of the materials, anything you want to share from it. It's a like little
just people to join.
Joining the Discord, I have to keep the Discord because I have to make sure that the people who are signed up for the course are getting the attention and I can't manage a community of, it'd be great to have hundreds of people in the community and so on. But that would be tricky. So the Discord right now has to remain like people in the class specifically, or people in the GSAS program who have taken the course before.
I don't know if you're understanding my question. Like I have a Discord set up for it. I just wanted to put the link and be like, if anyone wants to join Girls Who Club, they can join like
this you mean the other way around?
Yeah,
if you want to advertise your own stuff.
I just wanted to advertise it. I was just wondering if I could put it up in like the general chat if anyone wanted to join.
Sure. Yeah, that's absolutely fine. Yeah. Just not the other way around. I mean, I just yeah. That's absolutely fine. Yeah. I mean, supporting other groups and other groups at RPI and other special interest, that's totally fine. Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. It's just tricky for me. I've wound up, the number of students in the online thing this semester, we have to be, careful to make sure you're getting all your tuition's worth.
Okay, thank you. Have a nice day.
You too. Any other questions? People just hanging out.
I have a question.
Okay.
What exactly is the goal for us to learn? Like, I know it's just an intro to programming. I mean, to game programming, but how much do you expect us to learn?
Well, generally, if you go back to like the slide where the 4 projects were in there, I'll post it later. You will learn a lot. So, you should be able to be, I mean, the main goal is, of course, for you to be an active participant in a game development team. It's really, and this is one of the first, and used to be one of the only kind of game programming courses that everyone in the program would take before moving on to like Game Dev 1, Game Dev 2, and so on. So you need to be familiar enough to be, an active participant in a game development group like that.
Okay.
I don't expect you to be C#, to be able to take, interview questions in C# for coding interviews at Bloomberg or anything like that. No. Most of the things are conceptual things, so they're going to be applicable to other game engines and visual programming versus C# programming versus C++. So it's it varies. It's not, I don't expect people to come out of this feeling like they're becoming hardcore programmers, that they're ready to take Google's like I said, their interview questions in C# or C++. But if someone hands you a Unity project that you're working on and says, oh, I added this collision component over here and there's a script on it, could you check this? You'll understand what those things are and where things are at, and, how they're architectured and put together.
Okay. Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah.
Thanks. Have a nice day.
You too.
See ya.
Take care. Yes.
Hello, good afternoon. I was wondering, since I'm also in Intro to Game Design, is it possible to apply some of the stuff that I learned here to that class and some of the stuff that I learned from that class and apply it here?
Absolutely, on the game design class into here. I'm not. Who are you taking with it? Professor Miser or?
Sylvain Payan.
Oh, Payan. Okay. Sylvain. I'm not sure what platforms. Technically, what things you're using in there. I don't think you're using Unity in there.
No. See, I don't know what software we're using. Like right now, our first project is going to be like a proof of concept.
Yeah.
Like design a game around the idea of a single button input.
Right.
I'm really excited for that. On September 8th, but
Intro to Game Design is a very amorphous class depending on who teaches it or what kind of things. Sometimes it's strictly a conceptual sort of thing. Because certainly designing a game isn't necessarily about software architecture at all. Designing a good game, like you don't need a computer to design the game of chess or to even so taking those sort of design concepts and saying, okay, now I've got this idea for this adventure game, and what am I presenting to the user? What is their experience? How do I keep them informed? How do I keep them engaged? How do I, keep them from seeing something obvious and using those concepts? Absolutely. I expect people to be able to do that. Yeah.
Yeah. But I was not exactly like copy and pasting, but like taking inspiration from assets that we may create in game design.
Yeah. That's fine.
Okay. Good to know. Good to know.
Yeah.
Because I want to, like many others here, I want to be able to self-publish and create and self-compose for my games. I'm learning music composition on the side. Not in college, though, because I won't make the mistake of punishing myself through music school during college. But I plan to be an indie developer. And I was thinking that streamlining my projects into one central idea that I can develop further at some point in the future would be fantastic. So thank you so much for granting me the opportunity.
One caveat on that. One of the things, especially now where you're at in coming into the program, is that exposing yourself to a breadth of things is also very valuable, especially as in an appreciation for it as an indie developer, where you're going to be, you're going to have to do all these sorts of things. So, on the one hand, streamlining your, making the most of your effort is going to be important because you are, potentially a one-person shop. However, right now is not necessarily the time where you want to sort of put blinders on or pigeonhole.
Oh no, absolutely not.
So,
absolutely not.
So be open to things. And, yeah.
I'm just doing things just in case.
Yeah.
Like kind of like creating my own portfolio later for use.
Right. But so I'm just saying, like, I may say to someone, and I've said this, like, they're like, well, I'm thinking about doing this in my game. I say, well, think about adding this one thing, which sounds like, feels like you're bolting tail fins onto a swan that is not necessary, but, sometimes that's outside of the box, and it helps, to demonstrate or exposes you to some other kind of thing that turns out being used. So just make sure you're taking advantage of all of the breadth that's there as well. Don't limit yourself. Focus is great, and reusing things and purposing and streaming is great, but just be careful to take advantage of everything that's, be aware of it as well. So
okay,
yes,
sound
yes,
advice.
Be careful.
Sound advice. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful day. Take care and stay safe.
Yes, stay safe. I don't know how are you guys, are they delivering food to everybody? Is how?
No.
Yes, we are. I'm in the quadrangle complex, and we just pick up food at the archway.
Okay.
It's all good. We're doing good here in quarantine.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah, I'm off campus, so I gotta fend for myself.
Yeah. Oh.
So I actually did have one more question. So, I know you're gonna send me the form, but it might take some time for me to get on the LMS. Are you gonna be posting the lecture notes here as well?
Yeah.
For download.
Yeah, I tend to put everything on Google, and I'll just put the links on here as well. LMS is mostly, when it comes to grading time, that's the most critical time. So I tend to publish in multiple forms so keep track of everything, or everyone gets access to it. Any other questions? Someone else's. I don't have video from someone else, but
yeah, I have one last question.
Okay.
Can I start on my project now?
Sure. I didn't put the requirements out yet, but so that might be a little bit. You may be surprised by the requirements on the first one.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Don't use any graphics.
Graphics? No.
No graphics?
Yeah, graphics are secondary on the first project.
Okay. I have a great idea for the first project, but
we'll see. What I like to do is because two things that wind up. You're getting ahead now. Okay, so the two things that wind up, people invariably, if you don't stress right away, they wind up glossing over UI. So things like the option screen, the menu screen, the buttons, the stuff that people interact with a lot of the time. That's a system into and of itself in Unity and most engines. So we want to really show that we understand how to use that, and sound and spatialization of sound and so on. It's really also easy to say, oh yeah, I'm just going to worry about sound last, and you slap some music underneath your game. So I stress using very simple UI and based on the Unity UI. And then also do as much as possible, basically creating your adventure game. Largely, the primary modality should be sound as opposed to video. So use video a little, or visuals and art a little bit, but it's not a typical. It shouldn't be a typical move around using the normal Unity input system and so on. So
yeah, I've implemented a compiler in Unity before. I'm really excited to sort of use that, because I haven't gotten towards using that before. Somewhere you can in game you can type code and it would compile and actually work out. I think that's a really awesome idea. I really wanted to implement, but I never got towards implementing it.
A compiler. So what you mean? So you have implemented it, or you're looking towards implement?
Yeah, I'm looking towards implement something like that. I know it can be a little bit more difficult than. However,
certainly beyond the scope of this class. I mean, it's certainly possible. I mean, if you look at Bolt or something like that, or any kind of the plugin assets and things, it's possible. In my game architecture class, we implement a scripting component inside another game engine, but I've never tried it in Unity. I think that would be definitely above and beyond the normal pieces of things. So
I don't know. I would like to encourage myself for these ideas, because I think I learn more through failing as much opposed to just doing something as simple.
Okay. I mean, as long as you have to cover them both. I mean, there's like I said, you can certainly always go above and beyond, but at the end of the semester, to have taken on something that's incredibly difficult and not succeeded in that, and also not have done the basic stuff, that would be the only I'd be worried about that. So,
yeah,
I think it's good to have. I think it's good to have stretch goals. So basically, establish your like basic, hey, I need to get these certain things done. And then your stretch goals will be like, if I had time or if I had like unlimited time, these are all the stuff that I want to do. And then, basically get the base stuff done and then work on the stretch goals as you go along. I think it's good to have ambition and I think it's good to challenge yourself. Yep. I think it definitely helps your workflow. But it's also good to be realistic with your ambitions. So, be realistically ambitious. Push yourself, but not too far.
Yeah. If you're ready to take on that second one, building in a compiler, the other stuff should be easy and you should be able to just like knock it out in, for someone experienced. I mean, honestly, certainly, all of the projects could be done. You could. If you really knew Unity, you could finish this whole course in a week. If you really knew, if I had to sit down and do all I'd do all the projects in a week. But I would insist on, before moving on to the other stuff, just you're gonna, get that stuff done, and then move on to the big stuff.
I'm sorry, I just see that cat in the background.
Yeah, I also saw the cat. There's like.
Was she?
Oh,
Callie.
no.
Yeah. So she probably wants to go out. Yeah, she wants to go out. So that's Callie. All the stuff you're not supposed to see in the background. Anyway. All right. I better let her out. Any last questions? You can always send them in the Discord.
All right. Thank you. Have a good day.
Okay. Thanks. Take care.
Have a good day.
Bye.